Ever wondered why something called corned beef doesn't have a single kernel of corn in it? It's a mystery that has confused generations of sandwich lovers, deli enthusiasts, and anyone who's ever stared at their St. Patrick's Day dinner, wondering if the beef secretly went on a cornfield vacation. I'm Professor Everything, and today we'll be answering the question, why is it called corned beef if there's no corn? Right here on Explaining Everything. Let's start with the obvious. Corned beef doesn't have a single kernel of corn. No yellow bits, no popcorn surprise, not even a suspiciously small cob. So what gives? Here's the twist. Corn in corned beef doesn't refer to corn the crop at all. In centuries past, the word corn in English actually meant any small hard grain or particle. That could be salt, sand, even pepper. So, when people were curing beef with big grains of salt, salt rocks the size of little pebbles, those chunks were literally called corns of salt. That's where the meat got its name. So yes, the phrase corned beef literally meant beef treated with grain-like salt. All this time, you thought corn was just shy. Nope, it was busy being a word for salt grains. Imagine finding out butterfly isn't made of butter or flies. Equally tragic, right? Okay, so we know the corns are salt. But why salt beef at all? We live in the era of fridges, freezers, and assorted gadgets that hum ominously in the kitchen. But once upon a time, there were no fridges. If you wanted your meat to survive longer than a sneeze, you needed preservation magic, and salt was the go-to spell. Before refrigeration, people used salt to dry and preserve food so it wouldn't spoil and turn into a science experiment in sliminess. Beef, especially brisket, which is a tough cut, was perfectly happy to be seasoned and preserved because it meant it could last for days, weeks, or even months. Salt pulled moisture out, which discouraged bacteria, and voila, preserved beef. And because the salt was in those big coarse chunks, corns of salt, the beef got its name tied directly to that process. Modern corned beef might be brined in liquid salt water with spices and nitrates, but that original naming? Salt. Now here's where the story gets delightfully tangled. Even though corned beef is famous today, especially around St. Patrick's Day, it wasn't actually huge in Ireland historically. In Ireland, cows were traditionally far more valuable alive, for dairy and work, than dead on a plate. They'd usually eat pork or bacon instead. So how did corned beef become associated with Irish culture? Simple. Irish immigrants to the US found corned beef was cheaper and more available here than it was back home, and they often bought it from Jewish butchers using kosher brisket, a cut that was ideal for salting and curing. The Irish brought their flavor preferences, the Jews brought their brisket expertise, and somehow a cultural handshake happened in the middle. In Britain, corned beef was already being exported, partly because salt was cheaper in Ireland thanks to lower salt taxes. Exporting salt-cured meat was big business, and that exported beef kept the name tied to its salty grains. So ironically, what many people think of as a classic Irish dish is actually an Irish-American tradition with mixed roots and a name that comes from salt, not maize. Fast forward to today, and corned beef has evolved into many different forms, from neatly sliced deli meat to canned bully beef, to that glorious, hearty brisket you slow cook for hours until it's tender enough to practically melt in your mouth. Yet through all these transformations, the name stuck, mainly because language is stubborn, tradition is stubborn, and let's be honest, people are stubborn too. Modern corned beef is usually made with brisket cured in a flavorful brine of salt, spices like mustard seed, peppercorns, and cloves, and often pink curing salt, which gives the meat that unmistakable rosy hue that everyone instantly recognizes. And while no one expects actual corn in it anymore, the name corned beef has become so iconic that it's everywhere. On grocery shelves, in deli cases, in tins, in that late-night sandwich you swear tastes better at 2 a.m. than anything else ever could, all without a single kernel standing guard. Corned beef is a perfect example of how language, history, and human creativity collide in the most unexpected ways. From giant grains of salt that kept meat edible for weeks to immigrant kitchens mixing cultures and flavors, it's a story that's as much about ingenuity as it is about food. Next time you see that rosy slice of brisket, remember, it's not just a sandwich or a St. Patrick's Day staple. It's a salty, spiced, slightly mischievous little piece of history, carrying centuries of preservation, trade, and cultural mashups all in one bite. If you enjoyed this quirky slice of culinary history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enjoy your next corned beef meal. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.